Hey, my name is Jenny Renstatrup, and this is the Free Friday series from Gritty Birds Podcasting and the Gritty Birds Podcast. And every Friday, I'm going to give you some new tools and a new workshop that will help you get better at working from home, at having your podcasting be better, at producing different content, and I'm going to help you get better at it every single time. Today, I'm really excited to share with you my Podcasting 101 workshop. I've been giving this for 5 years with Siren Nation, and this is the first time that I'm doing it live in this kind of setting. So please take a look, take notes, and if you want to get that PDF, just send me a note and I'll send it right on over. And that you can go find on my contact page. That's grittybirds.com/contact. All right, so welcome to the First Friday series, and this is something that came out of having a lot of questions from people about various things like streaming and podcasting, and then also a reaction to the friends of mine who like lost their jobs in service industries, or friends who are now working from home, the musicians that I was working with. And I wanted to have something that was a free resource. Usually I give these workshops in partnership with different groups. And so this is actually a slide deck that I've had for a while. So we're gonna be kind of touching base on a lot of these, and then I'm gonna be doing some of them. I've got some of this gear and I'll show you guys things as well. So this is gonna be the first Free Friday on Mondays. I will be posting the Free Friday for the following Friday. So on Monday, I'll let you guys all know. I have that up on the mailing list. And I did just go ahead and make a link, and that is grittybirds.com/freefriday. So that's a brand new thing that I just added recently. So right here, I'm gonna figure out how to do this. Okay, and so this is me, I'm Jenny. I've been doing this since 2014. I started podcasting in 2013 and working in audio for a long time. And this photo is from I worked with RME for a few months, helping them with their podcasting gear. I do a lot of consulting in audio, and I do a lot of content and storytelling as well. Okay, so the first step that I always talk about in having a podcast, and I think a lot of podcasters who come to me already have an idea of what their show is, but it is really important to kind of think about and do some of that planning. So whenever I bring on a launch client, even before we step into all the technicalities, it's I want you to go in and make like some deeper plans about how you want to have your show. I use a few different programs and documents to be able to use that. Google Paper, I have actually a whole system management situation that I work with when I launch clients. But you can even just do this on paper and pen. I like using whiteboards. That's another great way to do it. So you kind of want to just think about the considerations of your show. I think right now there's going to be more people who, when you say, are you going to be using it with a lot of other people? Some of those considerations are going to be completely different because of the fact that we are going to be doing almost everything online for some time, which is crazy. So here, what do you want your show to be about? Who's on the podcast? What's your combined vision? And what format do you want to use? So this would definitely you have a lot of options for what you can do these days, but I think a lot of the ones are going to be very communicative, like communicating between two different people, having conversations about various topics for that social need as well. And then what kind of equipment and training. And I've got a lot of different options that I'm going to show you today as we're going through all of these. And some of them are going to be better for others. And then I'm also doing a video on streaming that I tried to do yesterday, but in all of these projects that we're doing, one of the reasons that you can call me a pro or an expert is because I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and through them I found solutions that work. And I work with a lot of other editors, and my podcast community, we're constantly sharing information. So I'm able to get you the latest and up-to-date information. For example, yesterday was Edison Research's whole wonderful area about everything that's going on in the podcasting world. And I think it's pretty exciting to see how much it's growing. And I'm really glad that we're at a point in podcasting that we are, so that we can, as podcasters, be helpful to those who are working in the streaming medium now. So we want to, of course, you want to have, what is your show about? So what is it that you need from a show to be able to keep podcasting? Who is your audience? Who are the people that are going to be listening? And how are you going to use your voice to reach them and to communicate with them? So recently, like for example, this last week, a week ago, I had launched this series along with a launch package. And when I realized that no one was signing up for the launch package and that everyone was losing their jobs, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do something. So I ended up doing this where I'm giving these free workshops, and it was the thing that served the market. But then I realized really this 101 class wasn't the number one thing people need. So I've also been co-working on this streaming class, right? Because like, what is it they need from me right now? And for me, it's like, okay, how can I help you communicate, right? And that's super important. And we've got a lot of time in our hands. So, and it keeps me full while things are shifting and pivoting with my clients as well. All right. So when you think of that, when you think about the people that you're wanting to do it with, you got to think about like who the chemistry is. You know, like if you feel like you have really good chemistry with like a close friend, you know, if there's a topic that you and somebody have in common, this is a really good thing to think about right now. Is like who is it when you're with them you laugh a lot with, or you have really great captivating conversations. Like a lot of times it's great to think about what it is that lands with people and do that kind of market research for it. So you're going to try it out with your friends. You know, you might often I'll be like, hey guys, what do you think of this? And they'll be like, that's an idea. And then other times it'll be like, that's a great idea. And there's a lot of really great options like polls where you can be able to use a lot of that information very easily these days. And a lot of the streaming tools have that. And I'll have more information on that in the streaming video. Okay, so whenever I have a class, the first thing I like to do is get people together. And so I always have if you had a whiteboard or a piece of paper, and when you come back to this later, if you rewatch this video, and I believe if you, I have the slides, I can easily get them to you. They're very accessible, and I can send them in another post email. Just send me a link and I'll get you that link. So write down 3 big concepts that you want to cover in your podcast. And then, you know, think about what kind of format you want to have. You know, there's fictional storytelling, audio storytelling's gotten really huge, you know, just write like comics, just giving stand up. There's a lot of scripted comedy. There's a lot of just general comedy where people are sitting around and shooting the jams. And these podcasts are actually the number one area of podcasts right now. There's more podcasts that are doing well in comedy. And that's a huge market. There's narrative, there's one-on-one, multi-host, solo, and all of these can use little pieces of it. Like in narrative, I'll use one-on-ones, I'll do solo along with narrative. They're all really neat. There's nonfiction storytelling. So there's one show I've been about to start on, but we're kind of figuring out the pivot on that one. That was a big show, and we'll see what happens. And that one's telling true stories and in crime. So there's also panel style, you know, there's a hybrid. You can do whatever you want. Like it's your podcast, it's your time, whatever you want to do, as complicated or as simple as you want to do. There's no question that you can do it. So in this, whatever I do creation, I like people to start off with just, let's get something on paper. A lot of what you want to do with podcasting is not overthink it, is just do it. So come up with a title. I really recommend when you're coming up with your title, come up with one that's just a working title, right? Just working right now. But you do want to make sure that there's not a million podcasts with your same name. You do want to do searches on Facebook, on your Instagram. You want to do a Google search, and there's certain even trademark sites that you can go to that will let you have an idea if there's other podcasts with the same ones. There are a lot of podcasts with the exact same names, but it makes it really hard to search, and it isn't ideal. I recommend coming up with something different. Yes, we are just about to hit a million podcasts that have been published. I'm guessing it's going to happen in the next month or two, but you know, there's still ideas out there, and there's ways to get your message and brand out. So once you have that, I want you to make just like a single statement mission. So you're going to say like, the mission of this is to get out great information to freelancers who are new to the freelance game, or people who are working from home and need, want to learn how to podcast as an extra way to communicate as they're left alone. Right? Okay. So if you're making a show, this is, oh, wow, there's a couple things I need to fix in this PDF. We're going to create a short show. So these are like 5 ideas you might have for a show. And then here you're writing just a basic intro. Hey, my name is Jenny Wren, and you're listening to Gritty Birds Free Fridays. And on this episode, we're going to learn about what it means to have a free podcast, have a podcast in a short 1-hour session. So that's going to be my intro if I was to start this and have it just be a podcast. If it was an outro, I'd say, thanks, guys. I'm so happy that you were here. I hope this was something that you enjoyed. Please leave me feedback and give me ideas for future episodes. Like that would be what I'd write out just off the top of my head. And the great thing about these days, you can even voice to text ideas if you're more of a speaker. and it makes it really simple. So it looks like I have another formatting area I need to fix. So we want to think about your style, because a lot of times I have a tendency just to go straight into recording because I spent like 2 years in audio retail and I love audio, and it's not all about recording. We got to think about our style and what we're doing. So, oops. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Sorry. I'll figure that out in a second. All right. So we want to be prepared. We're going to have a list of questions. So we want to start off when you're thinking about your show, like what you might be asking other people and what that content is going to be about. And I think it really is nice to have a list of go-to questions. So going ahead, and when you're having a conversation with somebody, if you've never done interviews, start off kind of light. You don't want to necessarily head straight into the heavy stuff. I like getting like a guest really comfortable at first. And I liked making a long list of questions that might be fun, just to get my brain like flowing and thinking about it a little bit. Sorry, I've got a message. Okay, perfect. Yes. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, so it's important to kind of think about those things that are going to familiarize your guest and get them set up. And your audience are also going to have cues. So once you start recording, and I recommend as soon as you get your gear to start doing it right away. Start getting used to it with solo recordings, find out what you want to do. The longer that you put off recording, the longer it's going to be before you publish your podcast. And the cool thing is you don't have to go ahead and get major gear. You can actually just use your cell phone. And that's something I really recommend, is just start using your phone where I don't have it next to me, but imagine that this is a cell phone and I'm just going to push record and I'm going to speak right into the mic. Or I might go ahead and use something like a pair of Apple earbuds, because they have that little mic. And when you do, you want to hold that kind of away from it so it doesn't get the rustling from other sound. I really do recommend using earphones always when you're doing any recording, because then you can know whether something's dropping out, if something's not quite working, and be able to have a really nice established sound. But like right now, if you're like, I don't have the funds to record something or to buy a new microphone, I'm definitely not going to the store to go get a microphone, or any of those questions, you can just go ahead and start playing around with these things. When you have your questions and doing that on your phone. It does make it a little harder if you're recording another person, but then I guess same thing if you're doing it on your computer and using some of these programs. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what programs you can use again to do some of the recording. I won't go super deep into that. That'll be a bigger topic I'll do for another Free Friday, because that is a whole hour in itself. But you can go ahead and just say, well, this is the resources I have right now. And you can go ahead and start recording. Earbuds are a really nice one for that. If you have those Apple earbuds going straight into your computer, that's a perfect option for that. For all of it. Okay. So when you're setting up your show, I really like Dropbox Paper to write down my ideas. It's a place that I can link up all my concepts. I can even have like documents that I'm building in Google Paper, and I can add them into there. And I'm going to end the show here just a second. Okay, that's not doing anything. I'm going to end the show just for a second. I hope it lets me start where I want to. Perfect. And then I'm going to go in here to Dropbox Paper so that you guys can see this. And I hope that the screen is showing. Let me see if I can see comments. Nope. Okay. I can't see comments. All right. Weird. Okay. I won't worry about that right now, but let's take a look, and I'm going to go into Dropbox right here. And I hadn't logged into it. I apologize for that. And in Dropbox Paper, it's a really nice, you can see here. So if I go to the home screen, you're going to have here, and then this is Paper. And what I like about Paper is, like right here, this is my media assets. I sent it because I'm going to be interviewed for FreshBooks a little bit later. So Jenny Wren's media assets. So here I actually have the Dropbox folder saved into here. I have a video straight into it. I have all my photos. I can have all my info, but I can also go ahead and like make comments on the side over here. So if I'm getting some ideas, that's a really good one. I'm going to leave that one. And then I'm going to actually show you another place in Paper. So in Paper, I actually have whole setups. I think I have it under here, Podcast Editors Club. And right here, I have templates that I use. So like here is my launch doc, and I'm just going to show it to you real quick. So I've got the show note, the vision, and logos. And I really enjoy doing this because it goes through all of these kind of concepts that are pretty neat. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our presentation. All right, so that is a really good tool Hope you're not swimming. And then we've got Google Docs. I really like them. I like having things as organized as possible. And then with Trello and Asana, these are really fantastic functions that you can use and to build out your ideas and everything else. So let me see again. I want to check. I'm going to stop share just a second to make sure I can check in on the group if anyone's waiting. Nope, we're good. Perfect. So I'm going to go back to share screen again, just so we can check in. And back to desktop too. All right, so I've got here our Google Docs, and I really believe in treating your show like a business, and mostly just because organization can be challenging, and it's easy to have things knowing when and where and how you're going to have them. There's some tools that I use that make it easier. This is one reason that I often do things with Zoom, because of the fact that on the dock of my browser, I can go ahead and actually just set up. Once I sign back in, I just did everything to my things. I can actually set up all the information, invite people into the Zoom calls. I can set up a Google form that allows all of my information to be shared. Like they can send all the information. I can tell them where they're supposed to sign up for. I use another program called Acuity. And Acuity is right here that they can just schedule the docs, and it's all super, super simple. We'll have to get back in there. And that way people, like you guys all used Acuity right now to get into there, and then it sort of sets this like major form. So like I in the future, I could have you guys, before you go here, it could be like, you need to go click here and fill out all this information in a Google form. And it seems like a little bit of overkill at times, but for your organization, when you are having guests, that can be really, really helpful. So Trello and Asana keeps me organized. It works really well with other teams. And I don't have it signed in there because, again, I had to log out of something. So I'm kind of just taking a pause on all of that at the moment. But I really like Trello. I like the way that it's set up with its cards because of the fact that you can very, very easily, maybe we are in Trello. Let's just see. Yeah, the cards are really nice, and they work great for podcasting because you can have things move from like starting to finish, like to in progress to finishing, and it's really nice. So when I have it set up, like this is my initial board. So these are several of the shows that I'm working on right now. And then I've got templates. And so if I go here, we'll just kind of take a look at Fatima's hand. Like we can see some of the tasks that are going on. And this is a show that's not always on. So it's also a show that usually records in studios. So it is currently one that is not super active. All right, so the next one, we want to talk recording. So once you have your system set up, you have an idea for your show, I want you to like think of a couple guests or even just start recording on your own. We want to think about our gear and we should be ordering that gear as early as possible if you have the funding to be able to do that. And right now, having some kind of USB setup is going to be something very important, but a couple of them I'm going to show you just starting off are going to be what we're taking a look at. So when I first think about it, there was something my dad always says to me is like, what's the tools that you have right now? Like, what do you already have access to? You know, what do we want to be doing? So how many people are recording? Are you in a house where there's 5 other people and all of you are driving each other crazy, but you all want to record together? Like you probably want to get either like a multi-track recorder, or you want to get a interface with several functions, or you want to get a mixing board, right? Like, and I'll go into that gear a little bit more. Are you going to be using phone or in person? Right now, though, USB. Is someone else editing, or is it you? That's important because if you're doing it yourself, you can probably have a few other functions if you already know how to edit. If whatever you do, like just get started, you know, get something simple, start from there. There's going to be other people that will want some needs later, but like to have a basic USB is completely worth it because you never know when something like this is going to happen. And now all of a sudden you're flush with gear. So your basic considerations for anywhere you're at. And right now is a really good example because I forgot to turn off my fridge. So you're going to hear just a slight buzz in the back, and that would just be my refrigerator. And usually I have it unplugged during something like this so that it has a little better audio, but for a workshop video, it's not the end of the world. The second thing I want to think about is, can I hear my guests? And so I want to make sure that their volume is high enough, that my setup is set up correctly to be able to do that? Can my guests hear me? So are the settings in whatever program you're using working out fine? Is the recording, but more importantly, is my space quiet enough? Is the recording loud enough? And is the recording not clipping? So if it's not quiet enough, so for example, probably the most common one that I have is echo, and echo is the bane of everyone's existence, and it has to do with everything bouncing off walls, bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. And a lot of times if you get two people who are recording in the same room and they're both in an echoey room, you get this kind of weird doubling thing, and it's called phasing, and it's really hard to fix, and the programs to fix it aren't really that easy to use or cheap. And it helps to be able to, at first, have some of those corners. So like taking care of corners, making corners better so that they're not having it, getting some foam for your spaces. Or like me, I have a ton of carpet in here. It's not a very loud space. So I'm really fortunate in the space that I'm at. Or do you like face a street where things are going at, like, or are you facing a window? The more that you want to not have reflections in your room, the better. And the more that you can limit that sound. And for that reason, we don't, one of the reasons that so many podcasters say don't get the Blue Yeti is because of the fact that it picks up everything in a room. And I happen to have one. It's sitting over there. I'm not going to grab it because then it'd be weird for me to run off. But the challenge that I have with the Yeti is that it just picks up so much of the room. And there are mics for that same price that can do way more, that have better sound and are dynamic. So if it's not clipping and if it's too loud or too soft, it's better sometimes to have it too soft because you can raise it. If it's too loud, if you get that buzzing sound, the buzzing sound is also something that's not very easy to fix. So when you have your meter, you don't want it to ever be going to red. So if you are even listening, sometimes you won't hear in the headphones, but you want to be watching that meter. And if that meter's reading red, and a good example is like right here on my interface, here on my interface, you can see it. So right here, it's not clipping red, and that's good. If it does, if I was to turn up that little knob, that's a gain knob, that'd be bad, and I don't want that. We don't want it to hit red because that means it goes, kind of that like that crackling noise that you hear that sounds like a little bit of a buzzing. So when we're looking at different mics, this is a dynamic XLR mic, and this is the SM7B. What I've got right here, this is also a dynamic mic, and that is the Audio-Technica BP40. There are dynamic mics, just that regular handheld mic that you'll see. So this is a E835 from Sennheiser, the Shure SM30, the Shure SM58 is a really common one. And these are just basic XLR mics. And then there's also USB, so you can have a dynamic mic that's also just goes straight into your computer without using an interface. So these are connected to these are all going to be connected to a kind of interface. I would recommend if you are, I'll show you some more types too. So you can also have a handheld. And this right here is a handheld. This is a Zoom. And I love these. This is the H4n. The H6 allows 6 channels. You can do multi-track recording. Another one of my free Fridays is going to be all on the Zoom. And I'll show you how to use that. You can also record into iPad, Windows, and hopefully, I don't have all the tools to make that really easy right now to show you how to do it, but I do have some of them. So if I can do a free Friday, I'll also do one on those. And then there's also just a mixer. I don't have a mixer sitting right here. It was kind of bulky and I didn't bring it over, but it's just a straight, simple mixing board. Let me go grab those, the Blue Yeti and the other, so we have all those examples. Just a second. Okay, so this is a mixing board and this is USB. So I go ahead and I control things by like how loud they are here and then also here on the gain. And I can change different EQ. So, the mids and the highs on that. And then this is a Yeti USB. It's just kind of bulky. You have to really get up close and have the gain low to get a really nice thick sound on it. Like I would usually have a blanket over my head and sit there with like it like this and slightly off to the side so that we don't get as much popping. And that was just a pain. And then one day it broke because they have the micro USB on it. And that's something that I just feel like is a design flaw on it. And so those are a couple. There is a video I have up on YouTube about the Samson Q2U. I don't have that anymore. It was one of the things taken in the theft, and I haven't replaced it yet because I have a lot of other gear. All right, so the USB, coming back to that, it's going to have a 2 to 3 year span. You might get lucky and get it to be longer, but any cable that you're disconnecting or reconnecting over and over and over has a likelihood of breaking. That's just how cables work. You can usually get insurance on some of them, but most insurance lasts about that long, so you don't have to get it. Some of the options are the Audio-Technica. Previously, I said the AT2020, but I don't recommend that one. I would actually say the ATR 2100. The 2100 Plus is really great. Those are nice because you can actually have a headphone straight in. I really like the Q2U. And then like the Rode NT, like Rode has some of them, some great ones as well. But they're not too expensive. Like the Samson Q2U, you can get that for $60, and it might even be less right now in some places. Really inexpensive but good sound. And so like if you're on a budget, get a Q2U. You want to get a stand as well though, as for it. That's important to have for your microphone. All right, so then you have your XLR Dynamic. As we were talking about, I showed that up to you. Dynamic is great, E835, the SM58. Higher end is going to be these guys, which we discussed. And then we've got our condenser. So if you have a condenser, is really great if you are a musician and want to be sharing your music on your podcast, because especially if you're like a guitar player, that way you can pick up more of the room. And that actually is a positive point of it, because for singing, that's really great. It's also can have really nice thick sound if you are in a studio setting, if you have a built room, so that you can get that. It gets a warmer sound. It picks up a lot more of the vocals, and it uses a diaphragm. So it has this, it has like a little kind of round circular in it piece, and you use something called phantom power to be able to use it, and it picks up. And this mic also has something else that it needs in between called the cloud lifter. Shout out to my friend Roger Cloud. It is something that boosts the signal, but it's also a nice tool you can have if you want to boost other quiet mics, including dynamic mics. But it does pick up a lot of sound in the room. So if you're kind of just starting and you've got a hallway room, don't go to Amazon and get one of those cheap $50 one of these. This is really not something you want to spend less on. And don't pick up one of those cheap sets that you're spending $100 on to get a mic and headphones from Amazon. Those are usually very low quality microphones and often are condensers. All right, so I talked to you a little bit about my handheld. You can actually have it connected to the computer. You can use it as an interface just using a cable. And then it uses an SD card. So our SD card's gonna be right here. So just a little SD card. And then that way you have any of the sound going through there. And you can do multi-track with these, which are really good. And I like just the sound that this ends up bringing for any guests when you do this in person. It has really good capabilities for it, and I appreciate it. So we've got a few of those options. These are a few of them that are out there. Zoom H1, that's a single mic, but that one, it doesn't have a XLR port, so you can't just have a mic easily in there. It just has it on the top of the head, and kind of like this. It's like this, but it's not as good as these. So it works if you're kind of doing this style, which is kind of the broadcast style. I usually do that when I'm doing interviews, when I'm traveling. I also do that with the Shure MV88 Plus. I have that one, but that one, I don't know where I set it. I'm in the middle of still cleaning out the studio as I'm back in town. All right, and then you've got your interfaces. So like right here, this one that you're taking a look at, this is the Babyface Pro. This is what I use, and currently we're actually hooked up to a Focusrite, and I got this Scarlett 2i2 from Focusrite for speaking at Podcast Editors Club. So thank you, Focusrite, for being a sponsor of that event that we were all at. And it's been really nice to kind of get to know this unit. And it allows you to multi-track immediately into your DAW, and that is your digital audio workstation. We'll get to that more. It allows you to both turn up volume in your program and the gain knobs really easily, so you can get a really fantastic controlled sound from your microphone. And it's one of those that lives in your studio. My Babyface Pro, the way that it's set up is it is actually a very sturdy machine. And that's one of the reasons that I got so excited about it, because I wanted something really sturdy with very, very solid preamps and like that had a higher quality sound, because I've always had this vision of doing a kind of a different music series. And so far that hasn't worked out, but I've tried it a couple different times and it's been fun. So there is also this is the mixer. You can kind of see a look. This actually mixer right here, this is the one that has the USB. There are a couple of them. There's like one that's white that does, and they'll start off at about $100 for a USB one. And I can actually use I can use the outputs on this one. You see those, there's a few ports that you can go ahead and actually just take it and have it go into your interface. So if you need a few extra mics, I've done that before. It's the biggest challenge with this one is you get one feed. So if you've got like someone who is a heavy mouth breather, if you've got somebody who is a really loud laugher, which gets us to that too high and clipping, that's one of the moments when things get clipped really high. Or if you've got someone who's really, really quiet, it means that you're not gonna be able to do anything. It's gonna be very challenging for you to fix that in the post. So you need to make sure that if you choose to do that, that everyone has headphones and that you are listening to what you're doing and getting that good sound heading in, and that chain from what's going into your DAW and what's happening on here is positive, so that you're not getting a lot of that extra really loud sound. There's a lot of new items in the market, and there's a lot of new items that are going to be coming in the market in the next year, and they're really based off of things like the Rodecaster Pro, and a lot of them are also, taking a look at things that are changing in the market, but they also will be a little closer to the interface concept and the mixer concept in the mixer. And so the one of the most popular ones this last year has been the Rodecaster Pro, and this is the quite a cool board. You can do a lot of pre-effects. You can do effects as you're on it. It's pretty neat. You can check that out just about anywhere. There's a lot of videos on it. And then this is how you can do the iPhone, iPad in a very short sentence. So you have a powered USB hub. That's a powered one. You need it to be powered because you need to be able to power the interface. And then you have the camera kit. That's what the CCK is. So it's called the camera kit, and it connects to your phone and it gives you a USB. So then you have your USB interface, which goes into there. So whatever phone you have, don't worry about if it's a 4S jailbroken. Somebody else made this, and then you can record into it in programs like Ferrite or GarageBand. And Ferrite's a really, really great program for it. So is Aria. I've heard. I have not used these, but you can use an iPad as well for this. So if you happen to have an extra iPad, this is a fantastic thing if you have an interface. ASIO for all. If you have Windows, I'm a Mac person, but I know a lot of people do have Windows. All you have to do is download ASIO for all. It'll create the core driver so that your audio makes sense. There are always a lot of little tiny things in the recording process that are difficult. I'll be doing a video on that that's longer. I think I've been talking about that one for about 10 minutes, but I could talk about that one for several videos. So I'll be breaking some of these down into simpler ones for the Free Fridays. Also, always have a backup drive if you're having a podcast or you're working from home. Anytime you're creating media that you're saving to your computer, you need to have a backup drive. Or these days, if you are online, you can be doing things by using, Google Drive and using Dropbox or for your backup needs, but your computer can't handle having all of that data on it. It will start to crash. You want to have, about 25 gigs of space free on your computer to be able to make these things work really well. Otherwise, you're going to start having crashes, and we don't want crashes. Okay, other things to consider, like I said, cloud, using a cleaning program. I use Clean My Mac. I have good cables. I have cables, a lot of cables. I have so many cables, and higher quality cables are going to have better grounding, which means that you're not going to get weird little static sounds. And the lower quality you get, the more of those you're going to have. So if it's braided, it's going to be a little bit better. If it's not, you might eventually start having some electric sound. So DOS. This is a digital audio workstation. So this is the thing that we use to record in our computer. And then you're going to arrange. Okay, we're going to spend a little more time here. Just a second. Okay, so I'm going to end the show really quick and open up a DAW. So this DAW right here, where are we? This is Hindenburg. We'll just start with this one. I'm going to open up just a second. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So this is Hindenburg, and I'm going to go first into here, and I'm going to go to my preferences and get it so it's set up perfect. And this is a DAW. So this is my digital audio workstation, and I can open up different sessions that have happened in here. All right, right. So this is a show, Getting Your Real Estate Life Together, which we just launched. And on here you have, this is before it's been cut. If I want to record onto anything on here, I can just go ahead and push record and then record. And then right here, if I want to be able to hear myself, if my setting does not have a, okay, if you right click on this, but this one, I don't have a good right click. Oh, it's probably because I'm recording. I can turn on my monitors. So there we go. Yeah. Anyway, but if you right click on that, you're able to get the monitors. And so you can start recording. Hello, Mom. Mom texted me. Right, so here we're going to go ahead and record, and then that's done. Right, so here we're going to go ahead. I don't know if you can hear it, but yeah, there we go. So now we have that, and that is my DAW. And I'll be going more into DAWs in another program. I'll be showing you guys a little bit about Hindi, and I'll be showing you guys a little bit of Audition at some point. So we're going to play from the current slide. There's a lot of different ones you can use. You're going to export it, and again, I'll have more videos on that. Pretty much you save it, you make the file, but editing's a little more complicated than that. But essentially you have your intro, you have your main track, you have your outro. Audacity is a really popular one. I'm learning it right now so I can be able to train you guys on it. Reaper is also a free one. I started on Reaper after I used Logic for the album. I actually use GarageBand as well. If you have GarageBand, it's super simple to use. Not a whole lot of advanced editing, but if you're like, if that's not something I'm ready for, I don't want to deal with that, don't worry about it. Paid DAWs, I use Audition and I use Hindenburg. Other popular ones include Logic and Pro Tools. That's gonna be the higher end of it. But you can kind of see right here, like this is what your little sections of it look like. And right here, your intro, your outro, and your middle. And right now, Audition has a really great feature where they are giving people free in the Creative Cloud. And I'm very happy that they're doing those. Okay, so for a recording checklist, we want to make sure when we're starting our recording that every cable is connected to how it's supposed to be. I want to make sure that the sound is okay. So like even before I started the session, I made sure that I had sound, and because I didn't want any issues to come up. And then I want to make sure that our levels are close enough, or even better, that we're multi-tracked so that I can worry about those levels later. And then I arm that track if it's a recording session that's not online, where I'm saying like we're going to start and then we push record. Well, we want to make sure that we always are pushing save at the end. I always recommend recording straight to your desktop for that first session. You do not want to be direct recording to your backup drive, because if anything goes wrong with it, it will not save the file correctly. If there's like a disconnected cable or something weird happens, you do not want to worry about having that problem. That's happened to me once, and that was once too many. Next time, take your time. If you want to take a breath and stretch, if you have a pause, you can say, hey, we're going to take a pause. We'll be right back. We are back. Or just for your editing and be like, okay, just a second. I need to take a breath. I need water, just a second. Notice that I did not drink the water onto the mic. If you want to have notes, you can stay focused that way. If you have them out, if you have a third person, a lot of people will sometimes even have a third person on that's taking notes. That's something that some producers do. That's of course optional, but as your show grows, that might be something that you'd consider that you'd want to have. Also, so at the end of it, you're going to push stop. You're going to save the file. So Control S. And then you're going to select all, and then you'll export it, or you'll render your file. So you'll make, I recommend going to Wave just so that it's a nice thick file before your edits. You might edit straight in your program, but always make sure you're saving just your raw file from your DAW no matter what. That is same in your streaming programs and anything else. Make sure you're saving that file. I recommend having it as something like if it's episode 3001 raw, and make sure you have that, or you could even have the date. So episode 001 03 2120, right? So that we know when it is. You can even have time of day. So editing takes its time. If you've never done it before, don't be too harsh on yourself. You can make your episodes as simple as you need to in order to save yourself time and patience. You can add just like little steps into it. And that's kind of why I like this 101 is a 101. Like you're getting a basic concept of it, but then we'll go deeper later on. You don't have to cut out all your ahs and ums. If you are cutting, you do want it to be subtle and you want to kind of like overlay it. I will be doing a workshop on basic editing because it's hard to just describe it. There's no shame in outsourcing if you can afford it. There's a lot of different options for finding people to do that. There's also no shame in wanting to learn how to edit. I do both of those things where I teach people how to edit. I do a lot of consultations where I'm helping people use their programs better. And then I also produce and edit other people's shows. So there's a whole variation. I have shows that don't want me to cut a single or anything. I have shows where we will cut down all of the material from 2 hours down to 10 minutes, so it really varies for each person. Okay. All right. So in your post, we're talking about, your hosting, your marketing support. I realize I did not go in this particular one in streaming. I'm going to go really quickly through streaming before we get to this slide. Right now we're using Zoom. Zoom does record. The quality of the sound on Zoom is not that great. You can also use Skype. I use Ecamm Skype recorder in order to record it. That's something very nice for it. And then additionally, you can use Squadcast. Squadcast is a great platform. There's Zencaster, there's Ringer. Right now, a lot of them are sort of overloaded, and that's a challenge. I'm hearing good things right now from Squadcast as far as how they're doing everything. So that's something to think about in the future. Social media and web. Once you get everything put out, I always do my graphics in Canva. That's a really great place to put it. You can have just a simple graphic, you can have the same graphic, but for social media, you have to have something just slightly different. So it can be a picture of the person that you're having. I use templates for everything that I do. So anytime I'm doing something, I've already done it before. I'm not making it from scratch. Like even this slideshow is something that I've developed over 4 years and slightly tweaked it here and there. And that's really nice. And I'll use the same template and then delete everything in order to do something. Then when I want it fresh, I'll save it, delete all of it, keep certain pieces of it and move it around just so that we're keeping things interesting. We want to think about logos after a name. So same with the name, we want something to be really very, it pops, does it catch, is it simple? You don't want too much stuff on it. You also want to have it so that these days, because of the fact that you get a lot of bottom ends of where they'll, from the programs itself that host, like things like Spotify, et cetera, they'll often have something on the bottom, like when you open up the program. These days, if you have a lower element on it is not good. That was not something that's always the case. In fact, when I'm looking at these ones, those are all shows that don't even exist anymore, which is kind of funny. So this is for an example of where I'm going to continue tweaking things, no matter where you are in your podcast process or in your working from home process, anything that you're doing in your tweaking in this can be redone. Pre-release, it's good to have a couple episodes. I really am changing my mind on this one. I like the idea of having a trailer and then 2 episodes because of the fact that you have the people in your audience, things are going to change. And the sooner, if you can have that, that's really great. I do though recommend, like after your trailer is out, having kind of a push and then going ahead and getting it out. I think today though, in this market, I would say make it, grow with the people around you, because we are at a point where we want to communicate, and whatever this is that's going on with COVID, it's either going to get bigger or it's going to be exactly how it is right now, which is already pretty intense. I just got a message that said more states are closing down their accessibility, and we just have to keep that in mind. So I would say the sooner you can get out your shows, the better, and have it respond to the people who are in your audiences and then grow from there. yeah, think about your music. You have to have pod safe music. Audio Hero is one I use. Free Music Archive is a good place to look. I think Audio Hero I like better. There's some good deals sometimes in AppSumo. That's where I got my deal for Free Music Archive. You can also search. YouTube has a whole bunch for pod safe music. Things that you want to think about, that's show notes. So, not a lot of words, but it's like, this is what this episode is about. So today's episode is about learning how to podcast in COVID life. I'm just kidding. Actually, that is true. That is specifically what this is. Now I think about it. They don't have to be long. If you have it for your website, so if you've got an article that you're linking as well, that one is going to be your 300 word SEO with hashtags to try to get that out there, or with a transcript or things like that. And you can also have transcripts that go along with it. I've been using otter.ai. That's been fantastic. I'm really impressed with that service. Finally, or not finally, but the next part is you have your show, you've created it, you need your host. So the way it is, that the way the podcasts work is that you have your audio, and you want it to go to the internet, and you need a thing called an RSS feed. And you can set up your own RSS feed, but you can also choose a host, and that host acts as the aggregator and sends it out to everyone else. And it also gathers data for you so you can know how it's going. And then you are able to send it to all these different locations using the RSS feed. So everything, you go only to the host or to your website that you post it all in there, and then it's connected to your host and goes out, but it still all goes out from one place. And you have to set it up. You go in there, you choose your host, and there's a bunch of different hosts. There's Libsyn, there's Podbean. Both of these are fantastic companies. I really like them. I use Libsyn. I have another client who uses Podbean. There's Blueberry. There's a lot more. I feel like I'm going to take this down from Blog Talk Radio and Podomatic. So lots of things have changed, like I mentioned. So what happens with any of these is you choose it. It goes out. Some of them have monetization. Some of them don't. A lot of them you have to submit to them separately. So like Spotify, you have to submit. Pandora, you have to go separately. Same with iHeart. And YouTube right now is not accepting new submissions from podcasts. Anyone who's already on it will. That might change again. We'll see. But like just sending a straight audio feed doesn't really work very well for your SEO on that. Okay, so setting up your feed, this is an important one, and there are some really, really great videos out there that you can search, and we'll go into it more. But on your host, you go ahead, you fill out all the pages. Like, who are you? You need to have your email on there. You need to have your logo on there. You need to have what your show is about. You need to say who you are. And then you have to upload an episode as well. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to upload your episode, and it's going to have the art, and you need to just have in that square. I think it's above 1300, but it's like 1300 by 1300. It needs to be that big, only square. And then you're going to upload an episode with the show notes, and then you're going to push publish. And then on your host, you have a place where you have your RSS feed, and then you're going to take that RSS feed, you're going to copy it. Then you're going to go to Apple Connects. This is what's going to get you onto the Apple website. And so you're going to go to apple.com, and you're going to go to Apple Connects, and you're going to sign into your account, or make an account and sign in if you are a Windows user. And then you're going to click on a part that says Podcast Connect, and then you're going to click on that link, and then it's going to ask you to have your RSS link, and it's going to pull everything from your feed onto it. So it's going to say, oh, this is who you are, da, da, da. Then you can choose your categories that you want to be in. And then you push submit. And when you push submit, it's going to take anywhere from like 3 to a few days. Like at the Christmas time, over the holidays, there's whole breaks where they won't authenticate a feed for a couple weeks. But right now it's still a normal turnaround. And you push press and it goes out. Then you also do this process on Spotify. You do this on Pandora. You make sure that you're automatically submitting it to. I really like both Spotify and Pandora right now still have a huge share of ear for listeners and music. There isn't as much of it in podcasting. It's still almost 80% in the Apple iTunes realm of where most people are still listening to podcasts on Apple, but there is a growing number of them on Spotify. Pandora is a very small part of it, but because of the fact they have such a share of ear, and this is partly coming back to the research that came out yesterday, is there's options to have a lot more places for it to go, and then you'll have it out everywhere. It does, again, take a couple days. This is one of the reasons that after you have a trailer, you might want to have a little bit of a wait until you put more of them out, because that way you'll start gathering subscribers, and then you'll also be able to publish to all those places. So I've gotten a lot of different sponsorship and funding. Right now is not the time to be thinking about sponsorship and funding, only because of the fact that there are already advertisers pulling out of other shows. You know, there's a lot of shows that have outsourced, just saying, well, I'm home now, I can do it. It's a harsher time and a harsher reality for it. But I do have a partnership with X-Ray FM. I have a Patreon, and for the Free Friday, at this point it's just free, but if anyone felt like, you know, tipping me $5 over at PayPal at Jenny Wren Music, yeah, that's always a thing. And at some point I may start a Patreon, but we'll just play it by ear. So eventually you want to have your shows support themselves. I'm going to go into some of this more deeply. I feel like the timing of where we're at right now and what's happening, it isn't quite appropriate to go deeper into this because it's changing so rapidly. As far as getting listeners, stay consistent, get involved in the podcast communities. They're really, really great for being able to meet other people. There's like some fantastic platforms that are going ahead and getting informations out there about podcasters. You know, have unique graphics for things, you know, have guests that are interested in it. Go ahead and trade shows with other people. Don't worry about if your family and friends aren't listening, because it just might not be their thing. And the fact is that like the average listener listens to 6 hours of podcasts a day, you know, like six, you know, that's a lot, but a lot of them, they're not going to necessarily be listening to all of their friends' shows. And now that everyone has a show, we just got to be like, okay with that and try not to be offended when, you know, your, you know, cousin-in-law isn't listening to your show. Finally, it took me a while to just be like, it's fine, no worries. There's a lot of resources. So Podcast Portland, I run that here in Portland, Oregon. If you are based in this area, Podcast Movement, they have a really great community. She Podcast has a great community. Those are all ones that I'm in. There's a ton of Facebook groups, podcaster support group. That's another one that I really like, that you can ask lots of questions. And there's so many summits that are happening right now. And there's gonna be a lot of them on podcasting. And that's gonna be really great if you want to even dive deeper in, you know, the DIY sense of putting out your shows. And then, of course, you can hire me. So I do all of these things. This is what I do for a living. And I'm always happy to help people. There's a lot of pivoting going on right now. Like even since 2 hours ago, I had a show that it was actually a huge, huge show that I had gotten hired on. And just they're making changes because they're still trying to, because they're working from home. So whether that continues later, we'll see. But like, you know, we're all having those strides, but I'm here to help. And, you know, that's the joy of it. So you can reach me. It's jennywren@gbpodcastediting.com. And I know it's been a long one, but let's open up to questions. Pause, share, stop. Okay, just a second. Stop, share. Okay. I'm going to open you up, Kenzie. So I've got someone in here, and Kenzie, do you have any questions?
No, it was pretty thorough. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, good. That's a nice. Yeah, thanks for hanging in through there. This is the first one, so I was like, you know, I'm going to be doing this every week, whether it's one person or 5 or people check it out post, because I think we just want to get information out there, and these are kind of fun. So, yeah. What would be the next topic you'd like ideally want?
I have no idea. I'm really kind of new to this and starting to navigate it. It's on my bucket list for this year, so I'm just trying to absorb as much as I can.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, awesome. It's good to chat, and I'm gonna dial out. But yeah, if you have any questions and want to send me a message, feel free to. You know where to find me now, and you have my email because you have my email because of the email list. So
yeah,
it's nice to meet you, Kenzie. It's a pleasure.
You too. Thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. All right, take care. Bye.
You too, bye.
Thanks again for tuning in to this week's episode. Every week we're going to have a new one. This week's episode is going to be all about streaming. I've been spending a lot of time really getting into a deep dive. You can go ahead and sign up for that at grittybirds.com/free Fridays, and I'll go ahead and send you an email on Mondays or Tuesdays. We're going to have a lot more coming up, including interviews with people who work from home, including podcasters, content creators, and different people who have really nailed it and can help you get better at all of this, recording engineers, etc. So we'll be back next week. See you next Friday. Again, you can sign up for those workshops at grittybirds.com. That's GRITTYBIRDS.com/free Fridays. Thanks. Bye.